All right, on the Candace Owens tip, and hearing what Nuxanor is going through, Nux Taku, this was actually kind of interesting because this was an area that at one point when I was sort of first looking into the libertarians, I started to finally pick up on. I'm like, wow, this is kind of fascinating because this seems to attract a lot of Jewish people. And I didn't really think anything of this until I started to get more familiar with the right wing generally and their ideas about Jewish people and stuff like that. Only, of course, to find out the whole, if I remember correctly, the essay, the famous The Jewish Question, or On the Jewish Question essay, this is like a Karl Marx thing, actually. So there's a lot of ironies mixed up in this. But the thing is where the key families of the conspiracies. Okay, there's there's certain ones that you're going to run into that you dig and dig and dig, and you talk to people, and you gotta sort through so much crazy. But then you get, this is the source, about 3 major conspiracy theories that are where you get most of the modern Jew hate stuff. That really, you can go to these 3 conspiracy theories. That one is the Khazar conspiracy theory, that a huge portion of Ashkenazi Jews are actually these people of Turkic origin that are called the Khazars, Khazar. This is not exactly accurate. There's genetic stuff done from the Human Genome Project that shows that this doesn't really hold. And more. Then there's the stuff of the story that you'll hear about it. Well, it turns out this is a story you'll also find in Ukraine about the Ukrainians, to the point that I've had Ukrainians reply on this channel that yes, that is a story that we have in Ukraine of our origin. So, and the Human Genome Project found they were just Meds. They're just Mediterranean people. It's even gone further to isolate the Canaanite cluster. And when it comes down to it, it's like fundamentally you have these groups of Canaanites. One has a lot of European admixture, one has a lot of Arabian admixture, and they're killing each other. That's what it is. That's what one guy put down. He goes, when it comes down to it, that's what the genomists, understanding of this at the moment is. Then you have the Frankists. Maybe this is both the same, actually. So it might be that I whittled down another one. The Frankist Sabbatean thing. So this guy Shabbatai Zvi, and his movement of Messianism, and that his movement somehow, I guess, gets emulated or actually inherited by another guy whose last name is Frank, and that they call his Frankists. And so these are these sort of neo-messianic people that were really into very strange activities that were so strange, Jews threw them out of Judaism. Then there's another group that are, so then there's the actual people, the Donme, the group of people who have been rejected. They will actually be approached if they're in a synagogue and they're a stranger in the synagogue, and they'll be told to leave, like that they're not considered in the fold. Frankists, being not of the Turkish convert group, the Donme, so these people converted to Islam. the Donmei. Their rabbi did that. It's such an amazing story. You just wouldn't even. You're like, what the fuck, um, but then with the what's it called? The Frankists. This is where you get the conspiracies of they invented socialism and this, that, and the other, because they're in Western Europe. And so beyond that, you end up getting really the people associated with the revolutions. And that just happens to be, there was somebody who put it as, well, when you're people of big ideas and it's time for big ideas, you're going to be the people there. And that's very real. This was, some of the biggest ideas and changes in human governance and economics in the history of the species during the Enlightenment. Now, then you have things like the converts to Christianity, like the Sabotniks, and other groups that had ideas that were that within very few generations they introduce or run into ideas that are really not of Christian origin. They're usually stuff from old texts that were being rediscovered and sometimes adapted, like the Rosicrucian diagrams, not the manifests, not the manifestos. The manifestos, I don't know. It's the Fama and all that. They're kind of, I don't know. I think they're kind of lame and gay, but they were a big deal at the time, of course, and changed so much. So that's where you get this from. You get these people who have, and so then that the beautiful part is, it's in 95. It becomes then okay for people to more openly speak about the traditions of the Kabbalah, and that's where a lot more stuff kind of makes sense, because the way somebody put it is, it's good poetry. It describes in the imagination and also takes things from other societies and tries to adapt them properly through, like, well, how does this apply to the Bible in Hebrew in our way? Because they're not allowed to practice anymore the ways of other lands. That's out of Egypt. I forget. I brought you out of Babylon, brought you out of Egypt. You are no longer allowed to practice their ways or something like that. The thing is, though, they inherited those alphabets and number systems. So they altered those a bit. These conspiracies, when you have people who are idea people, who've always been, remember, what are the stories? The stories are always that they go to this land, that they get captured or whatever happens. What do? They interpret dreams, they interpret the stars, because they're the only people who understand astronomy, because they have already words for the star systems. And stuff like that. They've already developed some kind of multi-generational skill at that. So that's why it's like, I'm like, this is the thing about, and so it makes sense when you hear Kabbalists talk about this. They're like, well, I mean, we're always a city people, just now and then we're in the wilderness. And I was like, yeah, well, fancy, huh? Like, their entire story being Abraham is in Babylon, and it's not like he's someplace else out in an exurb someplace. No, he's in Babylon. His dad he's involved in, the dad's making statues. He's like, and I'm like sitting there like, oh shit, I hadn't thought of it quite like that. But yeah, so all right. just some thoughts.